It's time to get your green on. In honor of St. Patrick's Day, I decided to show you how to make some Shamrock sand tart cookies. That is a mouthful. It's a traditional Pennsylvania Dutch recipe for a rolled, thin, crispy cookie, and it's topped off with a little bit of colored sugar. In this case, we're going to be using natural food dye to make our sand tarts green. And I took a traditional recipe and made it vegan so everyone can enjoy them. Welcome to Christine's Natural Kitchen. If you're new here, I'm Christine, and I share weekly plant-based recipes that are as delicious as they are healthy. I'm making this video in collaboration with Basil Bandwagon Natural Market, who provided all the ingredients I'm using today. So to make our sand tart cookies, first we're going to start off by creaming together our butter and sugar. You can use any type of plant-based butter or butter of your choice. This is 1/2 cup. And then I'm going to add 1 cup of, I'm using maple sugar, but you can use Florida crystals, raw cane sugar, or other types of sugar. You can do this the old school way with, fork or pastry cutter, or you can use a hand mixer as well. However you typically cream together your butter and sugar, you can use that method. The traditional sand tart recipe calls for 2 eggs, but to make an eggless version, if you're sensitive to eggs or just avoiding them, if you're vegan, you can just make a flax egg using 1 tablespoon of golden flax meal and 3 tablespoons of water. I'm just going to simply stir these together and then let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes until it thickens up nicely, and you'll see it really kind of gets like a beaten egg consistency. Besides the flax egg, another egg substitute that will work in many recipes is using a 1/4 cup of pumpkin puree instead of an egg. And so that's what we're going to do for our other egg replacement. So now we're going to add our flax egg to the creamed sugar and butter, along with our pumpkin puree. I'm going to stir in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now I'm going to add the dry ingredients, and we want to sift these. So you can either use a traditional sifter, or you can make your own sifter using just a strainer and a whisk. This is 2 cups of flour. I'm using an organic variety. 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/8 teaspoon of sea salt. And then simply combine them together, and I'm just using a regular old fork to do this part. So now you can see that the dough is really nicely coming together. And soon I'm going to gather this into a ball and then wrap it up in some wax paper, or you could wrap it in plastic wrap. And then we're going to refrigerate it overnight, or at least 6 hours or so. We want the dough to be nice and cold. That's going to help to make a really crispy cookie. Just keep mixing until your sugar gets a nice uniform color. And you'll want to do this in advance because it will be a little bit moist and you want it to dry out. So now is the perfect time to do it while your cookie dough is chilling overnight. And you basically just let this sit out on the counter just like this. You don't want to cover it because we're intentionally drying it. So after you refrigerate the dough overnight, you have this nice firm consistency. The chilled dough will make the cookies nice and crisp, and you want to work on a lightly floured board. Okay, so now we're going to roll out our chilled dough. And this is very chilled, so it's kind of firm and a little hard to roll out. I might have to actually cut the thickness in half. I'm going to take a knife and cut the thickness in half to be able to roll this out a little easier. So I took that big dough ball and I cut the width in half so that now we have flatter circles to work with. So basically the idea is to just roll this out as thin as possible. So just like you would pie crust, we're just going to roll this to maybe 1/8 of an inch thick. And of course, in the beginning, you can turn it, coat it with a little bit more flour and just basically keep rolling it out nice and thin. My daughter Anya has even jumped in here and has got her little hand in things, and she's rolling out some dough, so it's great to get the kids involved. So we just keep rolling this nice and thin. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle like you would want it for a pie crust. And at this point, we really don't want to turn it because it's a little fragile, and if we'd flip it at this point, it might tear. Now you're going to take your cookie cutter, which has been dipped lightly in flour so that it doesn't stick to our cookie dough, and you're just going to press that into the dough. The idea is that you want to cover the dough with as many cookie shapes as possible. Now comes the tricky part, is carefully getting the cookies transported over to our cookie sheet. We have a baking sheet that's lightly dusted with flour. Obviously, some cookie shapes are trickier than others. Shamrocks are going to be trickier than, say, a circle or a diamond. But we're just going to carefully transport this over to our baking sheet. Now we're going to decorate them with the colored sugar. So once your cookies are all covered with the green sugar, they are ready to go in the oven. We're going to bake them at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 7 to 8 minutes. Start checking them after 7 minutes. You might want to use a spatula and just lift them up to see if the bottom is lightly browned. And you can let them go as long as 8 minutes, but really watch them closely because these can burn in a split second. So then you're going to gather together all your little scraps and roll them into a ball and just flatten it out and just re-roll it so that you can get more cookies out of it. So these are fresh out of the oven, and this is the point at which you want to try to very gently take them off of the cookie sheet, otherwise they can stick to the cookie sheet. So, just wait a few moments after they come out of the oven, but then pretty quickly transfer them to a cooling rack. So you'll just want to be sure to let your Shamrock sand tarts cool completely before serving them. They're going to get much crispier after cooling completely. Don't you love baking? I sure do. Whether it's St. Patrick's Day or not, everyone is sure to love these crispy Shamrock sand tart cookies. Comment below and share your favorite type of cookie. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. When you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you'll find out about new cooking videos when they come out. Thanks for watching and happy baking!